Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Tevora Talks. I am your host, Cash, joined as always by my co-host and partner in cybercrime, Matt Mosley. Happy Monday, Matt. How's it going?
Good. Happy Monday. Let's do this. Let's bright and early. Let's get the week
Bright and
started.
early. Let's get the week started. We are coming to you on a Monday due to some technical difficulties on our end. We actually recorded this show for you guys.
Hey,
Friday.
you don't need to know.
I know, but it's kind of fun. We're work in progress. So the good thing about it is they get like a revised, reamped version 2.0 beta of our Friday show. So
yeah, and we can cut out all the BS that we were talking about on Friday as well.
Yeah, we'll save you guys the headache of listening to us ramble on. But
it's the more better version.
Yeah, exactly. Beta.
Mo beta.
Mo beta. You're right. I like that. We should make that a thing. Like turn into a t-shirt.
I think it was a thing.
Was it a thing?
I think it was a thing in the 80s.
We're bringing it back in 2020, 40 years later. But with that said, hey, man, let's get into it. A lot of cool stuff happened in the news last week. New cool things are trickling in, of course, from the weekend in the hacker and cyber world. But let's jump into it. Last week we were talking about, home automation. It's a thing that I'm really into. Past discussions with yourself, you're really into it too. A lot of people are getting into the trend of home automation with, simple tools nowadays like Google Home or Alexa, right?
Yep.
And, there's always been with this buzz of Internet of Things, how safe are they? Are they listening in and whatnot? And of course, just like with any security product, not just security product, any, electronic product that connects to the internet, there's always that question of security, right? How well did the developers go into protecting their product from harm? Or
especially for us who wear tinfoil hats all the time. I mean, I'm always questioning how secure is my Chromecast, Roku, Alexa.
Exactly. Especially, I mean, anything that literally has a sit-in mic there that's open. And from what I read, it triggers every 30 seconds. It opens up. That's why sometimes if you say like, hey, Google or Alexa, it doesn't respond because that trigger hasn't opened, apparently. So, but nonetheless, hey, that opens up every 30 seconds. We'll go into that, how, listening in can be its own thing. But what I want to talk about is I didn't know this because you have Alexa. You told me about this. Google Home, from what I know, doesn't have such a thing. But Alexa has something called skills.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So skills are basically like apps that you can install with the mobile Alexa app. And you go in there and you tell it, you go from the skill store, which is just like the app store, and tell it which skills you want your Alexa to learn. Like, for example, you could have the Domino's skill where you can say, Alexa, order me a pizza or whatever, right? Or you could play Jeopardy. Like that one's pretty fun if you ever get a chance to check that out. Yeah. And then there's some cool like murder mystery ones like the Batman, I forget what it's called, like Gotham Stories or something, where it tells you like a story and you got to choose your own adventure. Pretty cool. But yeah, those skills are pretty neat, and they're like applications essentially.
So the skills are awesome. But, again, I'm assuming that Amazon themselves are not sitting there developing these skills and they're not proprietary, right? So it's just like the App Store. Anybody can develop a skill, load it, launch it. But again, the thing that comes with putting, third-party software on a proprietary device like Amazon's Alexa's is how secure is it, right? And what can the softwares do, or more importantly, how secure is the platform that they're sitting on? Can I develop a malicious software? And I guess apparently the answer is yes. Yes, you can, right? So, and that's the big thing. So I'll kind of pass it over to you to share how it works. But apparently it's just that there are some malicious ways that these skills can be made to let hackers get access and whatnot. But a little bit more of the details. What's the scoop around these Alexa skills?
Yeah. So Checkpoint Security found a cross-site request forgery flaw. Basically, that once they figure out your device ID, they can make a request via an API to get a list of skills that are installed on your Alexa device.
Okay.
And then through a cross-site scripting flaw, or it's not really sure exactly how it works, but it has to deal with some sort of cross-site scripting flaw in the subdomain, and then also a cross-site request forgery that allows them to basically edit that request, and then install whatever skill they want on your Alexa for you
Interesting.
with your device ID. Yeah. So like we've said, I don't know of any malicious skills that are out there. I haven't done a whole lot of research on it, but I do know that there was article not too long ago about some guys who had done some research and created a skill that allowed basically the attacker to eavesdrop. What they would do is like, Alexa, start eavesdrop, and the blue ring would light up as if you were talking to Alexa to
Right, right.
send a command, and then it would just stay on, um, and listen to you talk in the room. Now, it'd be pretty obvious that that's happening, right? Because you see a bright blue light on. But I guess if you're not paying attention, that could happen. But this was all just for research. It was really just a proof of concept. But now take that proof of concept, tweak it a little bit, maybe figure out a way to turn off the blue light if you
Yeah.
can, and
And there
then
you go.
do your cross-site request forgery and install that skill on your ex-wife's, Alexa or whatever, and you can
Totally.
listen in on her device. Stuff like I'm sure the where there's a will, there's a way, right? Like
There's a
someone's gonna
way.
find out a way to do it. So
And again, like this seems like it's pretty new. And I'm pretty sure a lot of different hackers here and there have been trying to work on it. But now that, it's out there, like, hey, why don't you just do it this way, tap into the skills? I guarantee you there's some people out there starting to make some super malicious skills. Who knows what they can do though, right? So
yeah. I mean, I was trying to do like, man, I think it was like 2 years ago. I pitched this to Kevin Dick of our threat team, and I was trying to develop a way to do commands using like low frequency,
okay.
so that human ear couldn't hear it, but the technology could hear it, right? And what I wanted to do was I wanted to like take over anybody's like Siri device or Alexa or Google Home by sending out this like sound that humans couldn't hear, but the sound device, the microphone could hear, and it would send me a text message or give me information about their device. But I didn't know much about audio, so I couldn't really figure out how to do that.
Yeah.
But some guys actually did it, so I was on
Dang,
the
that's
right track.
crazy. You're on the right track.
But yeah, some people beat me to it because they knew how to do audio stuff.
That's crazy.
MIT, curse you. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know if it was MIT, but anyway. So imagine if someone was to do something like that, right? Like create like a kind of daisy chain a bunch of these different attacks into one. You could probably do some interesting damage. I mean, who knows? But I've talked about uh, you know, people denial servicing servers and stuff like that. And now with smart homes, like we're going to be getting into the days of people denial servicing houses, like DOSing houses, like you know,
Yeah, that would suck.
like you piss me off at work or something, and then I can uh, just somehow send commands to your Alexa at your house and turn up your heat or turn off your lights or or whatever. So
Yeah, I can imagine because like these huge companies, they spend tons and tons of money to either figure out a way to ward off these DDoS attacks or be able to kind of limit it, mitigate it so the site doesn't crash. But what about my little modem here from the ISP? I don't think it's going to take a lot to make this thing stop in its tracks, right? So,
right, yeah, and then something like this cross-site request forgery attack, like we always talk about like segmenting your IoT devices, your Internet of Things devices. This that attack doesn't protect you from that.
no,
Really. This is a request that goes out to Amazon, and it just has your device ID, like, and then
that's
your
crazy.
device talks to Amazon and installs the skill. So, um, yeah, there's never a silver bullet, but yeah, it's fun, good times.
Well, Amazon, if you guys ever listen to our podcast, clean this up because a lot of people like your products and yeah, help us make it more secure because breaches, I don't know how far this could go, but everything kind of leads to some kind of data breach or criminal activity to harvest data, right? That's usually the goal of everything hacker related for money incentive. Or I guess on the other end of it is just to maybe bring somebody down just because you hate them.
Yeah.
But
On a side note, with Amazon, they are doing podcasts now,
oh,
but the condition is that you can't talk bad about Amazon on your podcast.
I see.
So
So
as we move to getting on Amazon podcasts, we can't do any more Amazon stories.
We
We
can't
got to
hate
get it
on.
all out
We
now.
gotta hate on them. This is the last episode where we hate on Amazon.
So, yeah.
So with that said, I guess talking about breaches and like how data always gets hacked, and dude, couple big breaches again. One is new, one is old that we just kind of heard about. Let's go. Which one you want to go? You want to go with the new one or old one first?
Let's go with the new.
New. Okay, so new. This is new, but kind of new. It's just new, I guess.
It's like new, but new, old,
It's new,
new.
new, old. So another one of the big companies that makes a huge difference for every single human in the United States is one of these credit reporting agencies, right? Because dude, they house tons and tons of data, and not just in the United States, right? All over the world. They're definitely segmented, right? In US, we have our own branch of them, and vice versa for their own backend. But a big one got breached recently.
Oh,
Experian
okay.
got hacked, man.
That's
They
one of
got
the
hacked.
credit bureaus, right?
Yeah, it's one of the credit reporting bureaus. Experience South Africa, huge breach, 24 million records,
Dang.
almost 800,000 business records. So that's a pretty big breach.
Yeah, that's
I
huge.
don't know. Similar happened to not Experian, what was it, Equifax in the recent years. I don't know whatever happened with that, but this is these kind of breaches happen to everyone, but this is some important data because these guys, they literally collect data on everything we do in life, right?
Oh yeah,
From
for
credit
sure.
card number, payment histories, where did you shop, what do you own, how much debt do you have, where do you live, where did
Who
you
your
live,
employer is. Yeah, where
yeah,
did
who
you
your
live?
employer is,
Exactly.
who was your last employer. So there's a lot of your personal data in these credit card bureaus. So
Did you hear about the guy who used a fake address for his Apple account and that
no.
address popped up in his credit record?
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Well, what happened there? Is any Did it have
I think he
black
was just
backlash?
trying to prove that who he was. You know, like when you try to get your credit report and it
Yeah,
asks
yeah.
you like which address you lived at. He saw that and thought like that can't be true, so he picked a different one or something. I don't know, but he got locked out. And so then he was like investigating like where they got that address from, and he found out that it was on it's some guy on Reddit that was talking about this. But I think he did more than that. He was saying that it was just in his Apple account, but like I don't know how Apple accounts connect to a credit bureau. But if that's a thing, that's kind of interesting.
That is pretty
We
crazy.
should hear some more stories about that. Investigative journalists, get on it.
Somebody out there research and bring the evildoers to justice. But yeah, nonetheless, that's a big data breach. What is the government of South Africa saying? They're saying, hey, everyone
It
should
is what it is.
immediately,
Oh,
yeah, they say everyone should immediately apply for a free protective registration listing with the South Africa Fraud Prevention Service. So
mm.
I don't know. I don't know what that's gonna do, but these big companies, hey man, if you have seriously sensitive data like that, like I think 90% of your day to day should be how to protect that data.
Exactly. And I mean, we're seeing more fines for these things. And I think people are, starting to take it a little bit more serious. But there's always a fall guy at a company, and they're just like, oh, well, the CISO didn't do his job. So we got rid of him,
Yeah.
or she didn't do her job. And it's just kind of ridiculous that, like, oh, we're just going to give you credit monitoring for a year. Oh, because my social security number expires after a year? Like,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah.
You have to have it for the rest of your life. It's just ridiculous. And these guys, these cyber criminals, they know it's not even just cyber criminals, but just criminals in general know that all they have to do is wait a year after the potential
Yeah.
monitoring has expired, and then they can do their fraud.
It's like they're making bottles of wine. It's like, yeah, let it wait for 1 year.
Exactly.
Then it's
Yeah.
ready. It's
Exactly.
ready to harvest.
Yeah, it's pathetic, and nobody gets any jail time for this stuff. And some of this stuff is like outright like just neglect, right? They just don't. It's pretty egregious, some of the issues that I've seen, at least in past breaches. So
And I don't
anyway.
know what it is. It's usually like, I think end of the day, it's a couple people in these companies, they just don't understand the extra need for security because they say, oh, everything is good as it is. It's not going to happen to us, right? Why do we need to spend millions and revamp all our security systems and bring everything up to date? It's not necessary right now. We'll figure it out when it happens. And
Oh
yeah,
yeah, I've worked
usually
for those
it
companies. Like,
happens,
oh,
right?
we just worry about the stock price.
Yeah.
We just worry about the widgets that we make. We don't care about security. Nobody cares about security. We just want to sell more widgets. It's like, okay,
Yeah.
well,
Like, how are you going to bring that up in a stockholder meeting? Okay, so we need to spend, $10 million revamping our systems just cuz.
yeah.
But
Meanwhile,
I
your competitor stole your intellectual property of your widget and is now making knockoffs.
yeah, exactly. So, speaking of competitors, we'll shift gears. Experian people out there, if you do have any credit worries or concerns and you appreciate keeping your credit score good, at the very minimum, monitor it very frequently. So if something weird does pop up, you can at least flag it. So with that said, let's shift gears a little bit. Speaking of shifting gears relates to cars. This is a good segue. And
The
these two companies have been in.
Segway master.
That was pretty good, huh?
That was.
These two companies have been in the recent news, especially with Corona. And is it safe? Is it not? Trying to get them shut down. Not the main topic of our combo with them, but Uber. It's been in the news where California, at least here, they're trying to like halt their activities to say, hey, don't give any more ride sharing because of Corona spreading. But that's not the news that I want to talk about. What I do want to talk about is something new surfaced about Uber that happened years ago that apparently they kept it hush hush. And what was that? Take a guess.
A breach.
A massive data breach. Yeah, so good guess, good guess. So apparently, and you know some of the details on this, so jump in. But around 2016, apparently there was a massive data breach. Long story short, they pretty much paid the hackers to keep it down low. $100,000 they paid them in ransom in Bitcoin, right? In Bitcoin. But this is the funny part, to me at least. Okay, if you're paying somebody in Bitcoin, that's pretty much like once you send it, that money's gone, right? I
Yeah,
don't have to
and
tell you
anonymous.
who I am.
Right.
My name could be John Smith. Shout out to all the John Smiths out there, but I could be John Smith. Send me my money and I'm going to go on my way. I could continue to do harm or I could not. That's really, a, you know, a gamble you're going to have to make. But this is the funny part about Uber. So this guy was trying to get the hackers to sign a non-disclosure agreement after he paid them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
And how well did that work out? Obviously.
I don't know. I mean, like,
I just wonder what the thought process is like. So we've got these hackers that we don't know their names. We've never met them before. They've broken into our system. We've paid them anonymously. Now I want them to not only admit that they did it, but I want them to legally sign their name on this document to say that they won't do it again and that they won't talk about it. Good time.
so who does it boil down to? Always, you said like last story we just covered. There's a fall guy. Who's the
Yeah.
fall guy? I don't know if he's like the
I think with
chosen fall guy. Did he volunteer? Is this real? We'll never
I
know those
mean, but
details.
with good intent, like this is the fall guy. Like I don't know that I would even call him like this is his fault. He did
Yeah,
this.
he did it, right? Allegedly. We'll give him that credit.
Yeah.
But his name at Uber, Joseph Sullivan.
By the
It
way,
was a
I know
big
like
data breach.
9 Joseph Sullivans in my life.
Oh, really?
Like legit. Yeah.
Okay, so he's gonna go under the radar for a while, but he did. He kind of like swept this under the rug. It was a big breach, man. 57 million Uber riders and drivers' records were compromised, and a lot of different, kinds of data, names, email addresses, phone numbers.
Driver's
But
license.
yeah, for those drivers, 600,000 driver's license numbers were also compromised. So
Oh, the
that's sad.
57 million was the riders and the 600,000 was just the drivers. Wow.
Something like
So
that.
the
Yeah.
rider information was, I didn't think the rider information was compromised. That's crazy.
Yeah, no, it's a lot of
Well,
records.
someone's got my information. So
Yep, it's out there again.
yeah.
So that's that. And I guess this is the interesting part. And you brought this up. What happened? This was during another investigation or something you were
Oh
mentioning?
yeah, so there was a breach in 2014 for Uber, and while he was this guy Joseph Sullivan was talking to the FTC about that. He was like responding to the FTC inquiries regarding the previous breach. About 10 days later, he received an email in 2016 about another breach. And then they confirmed it within 24 hours. And then, the rest is history where he
Oh man.
attempted to pay him $100,000. But yeah, so he was really dealing with multiple issues at the same time and obviously not handling them very well. So,
Can you just imagine like you're in the middle of one massive situation and you get a phone call in the middle of the night, be like, hey, we got hacked again. It's
yeah,
like, oh man, that
as
must suck.
history has shown us, we don't want to fight a war on two fronts, but that's kind of what happened here. So,
But I mean, that's what hackers are out here to do. They're out here to exploit people, exploit companies to gain money. And, exploitations are always out there, especially with software. And I'm going to set up the next one. Are you ready for this?
yeah.
So, how does malware spread? There's usually some kind of trojan that gets dropped somehow, etc., right? But one thing people don't realize is like all these, and okay, let's kind of back up. How does that happen? There has to be some kind of exploit or some kind of flaw in some software, right? Whether it's an app that you downloaded, the Microsoft or Mac or Ubuntu OS itself has something somewhere that a hacker found to be a flaw in the coding and it's an exploit. And then they kind of inject their malicious code in there that way, right? Or they get into the system that way. But software is software, right? And viruses and all these malicious malware, they're all software too. So there's a big one. It was called emotet. Have you heard of
Mhm.
emotets? I'm sure you have.
Oh yeah, emotet, trickbot, hand in hand for the last couple years.
So yeah, it's a big one, right?
Yeah,
Emotet.
it's the precursor to everything bad that happens in our world now.
Yeah.
I
It,
mean, in our cybersecurity world, not like in the world. I'm not talking about COVID. But yeah, Emotet and Trickbot are basically stagers. They're Swiss Army knives that have tons of capabilities that um, basically set up the worst stuff, which comes in later, which is like the ransomware and Trojans and all that stuff. Um, so yeah, it's very familiar with it. It's nasty stuff. It
yes.
spreads rapidly. It's not fun.
So, like I don't know, have you ever done any like bug hunting when you're doing software and stuff? So I usually when I do my coding, there's somebody of mine sitting next to me. He looks at my screen, he's like, oh, here, there's your flaw. I found it. And that's kind of what happened with his emotet, right? These researchers, they found a flaw in emotet. And what did they do? They used the flaw to stop emotet. And it's like more or less, what do they call it? Like a kill switch, right? You know the details of the kill switch that they figured out?
Yeah, so they figured out that, they essentially created a kill switch. I don't think it had a kill switch in it,
Oh, they
like we've
created
seen
one.
in
Yeah,
other
for sure.
malware. Like other malware for like WannaCry, I think it was, where that researcher found that if you bought a domain, it would check for that domain, and then it would, if the domain was registered or live or whatever, then it would not spread. So in this case, it was more of the software goes through, and as it's doing its execution, it looks to a registry key and
Uh-huh.
it gets the key name and then writes the exe, the binary, as that registry key dot exe. And so what they essentially did was remove that registry key so that when the file gets written, it's just a blank binary
I see.
that can't execute, right? Because it doesn't have a proper file name. So in itself, it kind of created a kill switch.
Ah, I
Uh,
see.
but it's pretty cool. It's when the hackers, it's when the companies fight back and kind of go after the hackers. That's the kind of stuff I like to hear about.
But that has its own downside, right? Because what happened in this case is
Yeah,
the writers of Emotet, they figured out they're like, oh, here's a flaw in our software. So not only did they go patch it, so this kill switch can't be implemented,
yeah,
but I don't know the exact details. Somehow they actually improved upon their software. So now it even works better than it used to. and it already worked really good. So
Yeah, exactly. They just made it better.
they just made it better. It's pretty much giving like,
Made it harder for our teams.
yeah, giving like the Terminator from T2 like more guns, just
Yeah.
making them like less prone to damage. So awesome. Thanks to those researchers for hooking it up for the world and making a better malware,
Yeah. It does
essentially.
remind me of a cool story though. There
Yeah.
was a we'll talk about this on our hacker history, but
Okay.
there's a
All right.
story. I think it was called Black Sunday, and what it was is, do you remember back in the day, like satellite TV, they had black boxes?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, right. So you would buy these
Like for
black
direct
boxes,
TV and stuff
yeah,
like that.
and
Okay.
you'd get these cards, these smart cards, and they were, you know, hacked smart cards, right? They had software on them and stuff that would allow you to basically get free satellite TV.
Damn.
Well, so DirecTV, Dish TV, always were dealing with these people that were, hacking these smart cards. So they would release a security update. The guys would get the security update and then, reverse it, and then patch their smart cards, and then again, free TV, right? So you may be down like a day or two until they can figure out a patch and then fix the smart cards. Well, one of the companies, I can't remember, it was like DirecTV or Dish, but when I do the hacker history, I'll do the research. Anyways, they hire this new guy to come in, and over time, the updates got a little bit bigger, and these reversers were trying to figure out, uh, you know, they didn't know what this little code was, but they were patching the other stuff that was in the download and getting the TV back up and running and everything. And then so over time, there was all these little updates that they couldn't explain. And finally, on like Super Bowl Sunday in whatever year it was, all of those updates, like 20 updates, all rolled into one giant patch and completely blocked everybody out all at once and made it
Damn.
impossible for them to reverse engineer the patch, and yeah, and basically killed the black box industry, because you don't even hear about it anymore. But it's pretty awesome. It's pretty cool when companies fight back and are successful in that regard. So I just like this guy's style of trickling in these little updates to make one
Yeah.
giant big update. So pretty cool. So we'll
But
definitely talk
I
about
wish
that.
those black boxes were around. I don't like paying for cable.
Yeah, it's ridiculous
They
paying.
were really cool. I remember my cousin had one. They had like that direct TV and he would like I remember those card things. Now that you bring them up, I'm like, "Oh, they were like the chips." I remember him.
Yeah.
He would slide in, he would like have like 3, 4 of them and he would have to like shuffle them around, but
As a
eventually
teenager
one
at
would
this
work.
time, a lot of
Yeah.
squiggly bars. Every once in a while, you'd see what you wanted to see, and you're
Yeah.
good to go.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. There was that one channel, we're not gonna say which one, but there's that one that everybody wanted to see. But nonetheless, hackers, they try to hack and whatnot. What was the last one that we were trying to go over for today?
Oh yeah, I just wanted to make a quick shout out about this recent one that was kind of disclosed. So FBI and CISA are kind of notifying everyone that, like, if you're a government contractor, to be out on the look. I guess really just remain vigilant, just because you're always a target for these various groups. But right now, what they're doing is they're essentially like fishing as potential recruiters, so that they
Mhm.
can, you know, install malware on your machine, and then from there, I don't know, gain information about whatever contracts you're working on. But this one I wanted to kind of highlight just a little bit, because this is nothing new, right? This happens. I think these
Here and
announcements come
there.
out every quarter.
Yeah, for
But
sure.
this one was interesting because it's linked back to the Lazarus Group, which we've talked about in the past. And the Lazarus Group is a North Korean state sponsored hacker group that is connected to, in one way or another, a lot of the cybercrime in the world. I mean, they've
Yeah.
got connections with Fin7. They've got connections with the group that did the Sony pictures breach. They're just constantly every year coming up in the news as definitely a sophisticated attacker. So be on the lookout for that, and be on the lookout for more hacker history from us on the Lazarus Group and the various
Yes, we definitely
groups
got
that
to
they
do that.
are,
We'll
yeah, that they're
we'll throw
associated
one
with.
out this week. Let's do a good one. Hacker history. There's a couple hackers I want to talk about. I like Anonymous. They just look cool.
Yeah.
and they
They
do
definitely
some
got the
cool stuff.
marketing on point.
Yeah, their marketing's on point. So Anonymous, Lazarus, anyone that ends with a us, you know,
Fin 7.
Fin 7.
What was that one? Fuzzy Bear? It's not Fuzzy Bear. Frosty Bear, Fear Bear. I don't know. Something
Well,
bear. Something from Russia.
yeah, something from Russia has to have a bear in it for sure.
Fancy
Malicious
Bear.
bear.
I think it's called Fancy Bear.
Fancy bear. That's fantastic.
Yeah,
Well,
that's the new one right now.
well, stay tuned to listen to our hacker history stories. They're really good ones. If you haven't listened to the past one, please do. If you're enjoying our shows, hit subscribe to our channel. Any questions, please send it to us at podcast@tevoratalks.com. And with that said, that's the wrap up for the news so far. We'll bring you more stuff as it happens. And aside from that, any last notes for the listeners?
Nope, just that it's Monday. Now we got to get back to real work.
Yep, now the real world starts. So happy Monday to everyone out there. Thanks for listening again. And with that said, we'll catch you on the flip side.